afternoon. Test. Testing. Test. Good afternoon. And this reminder, please have your phones on silent or vibrate. And please note that the Vermont locker room is now open to the media. We are joined by head coach Alyssa Gretzky and Catherine, along with players Catherine Gilwey and Emma Utterback. And we will begin with the opening statement from the head coach, followed by for questions by the student athletes.
First and foremost, I'm extremely proud of this Vermont group. Once again, we showed why we're sitting here, and that's toughness and grit. So I couldn't be more proud of this group. They worked extremely hard to get to this point. We've talked a lot about it, but 17 games in a row to get here is pretty hard to do. So I'm really, really pleased with the performance today. Obviously, it didn't end the way we want, but that's a really talented UConn team. But there's some really good things that we can take from this game and stuff that we're going to build off of as we continue to build our program. As we say, you got to play the best in order to get better. And I think today showed that there's things that we are able to do that's going to help develop our program even further. So next year, hopefully, when we have an opportunity to make a run, we have a chance to be back in this situation and maybe with a different outcome.
And we will now take questions for the student athletes only. If time allows, follow up with any virtual questions. For the in-person folks, please wait until the microphone is handed to you to ask your question, and we ask that you identify yourself and your affiliation. Questions?
Alexa Philippou, ESPN. For either of you, you've heard Coach say that you hope to take some of the lessons from today's game into how you build the program moving forward. What do you think a game like today could help with Vermont as you all continue to move to build the program?
I think the biggest takeaway that we can, get from this game is that in big pressure games, how to remain ourselves. And, none of us have been in that experience before. I mean, we played Indiana earlier this year, but it was both of our first games, and March Madness is completely different. It's a completely different ball game. So we'll go back to the drawing board, and we'll work in this off season on, staying true to ourselves when the pressure comes and staying confident in what we bring to the table. And I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, I would say playing against UConn, where all the players are super talented and they're very athletic and they're big and strong. Obviously, we don't have the athleticism to our advantage, so we gotta be super locked in on all of our rules, all of our fundamentals on defense. And I thought we had a couple slip-ups, but those are the things that we're gonna learn from. And hopefully next year we're back in the same position and we don't have those slip-ups.
Any other questions for the student athletes?
Kendrick, ABC 22, Fox 44 in Burlington. Ladies, just as far as, I know this was a game you guys came to win, of course, and now that it's over, what is your biggest takeaway from this season?
Honestly, this season, I'm just so proud of this team and the UVM program. As a whole, we came so far this season, and we didn't start off conference how we wanted to, and the fact that we were able to bounce back and go on such a long win streak just shows what we're made of. And I'm just really proud of how we were able to come together, and we never folded or started pointing fingers at one another. We leaned on each other, and we just came together as a whole, and we were able to be successful.
Yeah, I totally agree with Kat, and I think this is a historical group with a bunch of special girls. We made a lot happen for this program, and we really made our community proud, and a lot of people in our community are now big UVM women's basketball fans, and, we made that happen, and we brought the madness back to Burlington, and we're going to keep bringing that back. We got a lot of people coming back, and we're going to grind, and I'm just so thankful for the hard work that the girls put in each and every day, and the way that, they believe in me just as much as I believe in them. Trust is huge, and when you have all 15 girls trusting in one another and in the coaching staff, special things happen, and that was this season. It was special.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will now open it up questions for the head coach.
Hey, Coach. My name is Vicky Fulkerson. I'm from the New London Day in Connecticut. I was just wondering what your take on Aaliyah Edwards was. She had such an impressive game.
Well, we couldn't match her athleticism, strength, explosion. I thought we didn't have an answer for her. Game plan was to try to double her some, but, she's ready for stuff like that. And I thought she did a great job getting us really deep in the paint. And then when we kind of played off her from the perimeter, she had a couple perimeter shots. But she's just such a worker. She works so hard. She never gives up. She's really talented, and that was quite a mismatch for us. And got to give them credit. They know how to take advantage of the mismatches.
Hi, Coach. Kind of just similar to what I asked your players, but what do you think this experience, you mentioned that you hope the team will be able to take things from being able to play like a team like UConn, but between being able to play in the tournament in the first place to playing a team like UConn's caliber, what do you hope that kind of can translate into as the program continues to build?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of stuff in the off season that we can buy into even more. Our strength and condition coach is excellent, but I think our players need to buy into that area even more. Obviously, we're never probably going to match the athleticism, but I think we can get stronger, we can get smarter. I think there's definitely things in the off season that we need to buy into a little bit more. And I say that with a remarkable group that bought into everything we asked of them, but we can do better, I think. And it kind of set the bar for us. And now we know what the bar is, and now we want to move that bar up higher and go reach for the stars. So the off season is going to be huge for this group. I think conditioning levels, things like that, I think we got to do a better job. And that's really the off season, because when the season comes, it's too late.
Coach, you had such a great defensive team all season, I think giving up 53 points a game. UConn had that at halftime. So, A, what was the defensive plan against UConn? And B, how did they just manage to?
Yeah, I mean, UConn's pretty impressive. They know how to read defenses really well. They share the ball excellently. But I did think we kind of left each other out on an island. I think everyone was so worried about their man scoring that they forgot to play team defense. Which, when Kat mentioned it, but those are things that I thought that we could have done better in the first half. I thought we did a decent job in that third quarter, kind of cleaning up some of that stuff. But again, you're playing a really talented team that's really smart. They know how to share the ball. They all can score. So any little lapse, they took advantage of. But half the game, I was pretty pleased with our defense. Early, we were leaving each other out on an island, and you can't win that way.
Coach, kind of similar to what I asked the girls, as far as the takeaway for the season, but also for you, just as far as, what it could mean for this program going forward, whether it be the girls that are coming back next year, but also, I know you've mentioned the best recruiting too.
Yeah. Well, getting Vermont back to this level is really important for the growth of our program. We talk a lot about it, but we want winners, and winners want to come and they want to work hard, and they're going to do everything they can in their power to help your program win. And so when we're out in the recruiting trail and we're talking to players, like, do they have the dream of playing in the big dance? But what are they going to do behind the scenes to get there? Like a Catherine Gilway, she works so hard. So we want those young women that want to work extremely hard and understand it's not going to be easy. Nothing's going to be handed to you. And I thought this group, for the most part, really did a good job of realizing they were going to have to dig deep and find a way that nobody was going to look at Vermont like they could just walk in a gym. They were going to give their best. So for us, obviously, it's really exciting to get Vermont back to this level. And we talked to players about wanting to do it and what it's going to take to do it. And so I think this is only going to help us. I think it's wonderful that we can give this back to our community. The excitement around women's basketball has been incredible this year. And the biggest thing is I want our players to stay hungry. They got a little taste of what this is like, and now they're going to have to work twice as hard to get back here. And so I'm hoping they'll stay hungry, and our recruits coming in, they want to do the same thing. Kind of, you don't want to be the group that drops the ball kind of mentality. And I'm hoping that that's what this kind of turns into at the University of Vermont.
Any more questions?
Coach, the only thing I'll just quickly add then is, obviously you've taken over the program about 4 years ago now, and did you see yourself here in this game 4 years ago, for this program, obviously?
I mean, I hope for it. We really tried hard to steal a couple of really talented players in our first class, and we were actually in an interim tag. So that was a little tricky trying to get players to understand, like, you could be coming here and never play for us, but you'll be coming to an incredible university, high academics, it's the right community behind you. But if you believe in us like we believe in you, we could do something special. And that's Emma and Dell really bought into that. And so I thought we stole a couple of really nice players in our first class. And obviously they're really talented, and they come from a family background that no matter what, they're going to do it together. And I think that's why we're sitting where we're at, because as Emma said, there was no pointing fingers. We just lifted each other, and when things didn't go well, we found a way to pick ourselves up and do it harder or do it stronger, or whatever it may be. So I don't know if I necessarily saw this, but we sure hope for it, and I think we got the right people in place that were going to work hard to try to get us here, and they did. They worked really hard and found a way.
Any further questions? Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, and this is just a reminder to please make sure your cell phones are on silent or mute. And also note that the UConn locker room is now open to the media. We're joined by head coach Gino Oriema, along with student athletes Aaliyah Edwards and Dorka Uhas. We will begin with an opening statement from the head coach, followed by questions for the student athletes.
Thank you. The the NCAA tournament does a lot to people. Brings out the best in some people, brings out the worst in some people, and that's why it's so exciting, I think, to find out which teams are going to be playing their best and which teams are going to struggle, and so you always worry about that going into especially the first game. You're always worried about that. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, and it doesn't matter what seed you are or they are. So it was really gratifying today to see us come out and start the way we did and compete with the energy that we had and the focus that we had, and then get amazing performances from Aaliyah and Dorka, and I just think that's a great way to start, and hopefully we can build on that Monday night.
We will now take questions for the student athletes. If time allows, we'll follow up with any virtual questions. For the in-person folks, please wait until the microphone is handed to you to ask your question, and please identify yourself along with your affiliation.
Pat Eaton-Robb from the Associated Press. Aaliyah, career high today. At what point do you realize that the other team doesn't have an answer for you, and how do you respond when you figure that out?
I think that we started the game off really well, and we hit them with the first punch. And I think that from the jump ball, I knew personally, individually, that I'd be able to dominate inside, and I think Dorka had her own too, and I think that we just flowed together as a team. I think we had a lot of assists as well throughout the whole game, and I think that we just capitalized on every possession that we could.
Lila Bromberg with the Hartford Current. Aaliyah, can you walk us through that moment in the first quarter when you scored the N1 layup on the fast break and dapped up the fans in the student section? Just kind of what was going through your head and how special that was?
It was nice. I was kind of falling into the crowd anyway, so I felt the energy and, the love from the student section. We're playing in Gamble. It's the first game here, and you could feel the energy, feel the love from that atmosphere, and I think that everyone on the team loves that energy from them, and we have the best nation fans in the world, so it was a great moment.
From CT Insider. Aaliyah, you were named a third-team All-American earlier this week. What was your reaction to getting that honor, and where is one part of your game that you want to see improve even more?
It's kind of funny, all Canadian, all American. It's almost like a dual citizenship in a way. But I'm just honored to kind of be up there, with Paige winning it and Nafisa and other alum who've been represented. I'm just grateful to be a part of that and put the name out for UConn.
Gabrielle Levine with the Next, and this is for either Dorka or Leah. This is now the second year that college athletes can profit off of NIL, but in those 2 years, there's been no change to the rules that have largely excluded international players like yourselves from benefiting in the same way. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on, the lack of progress or any change to the rules in that time? Are you at all disheartened or discouraged to see it, given the on-court success that you and your, international teammates have had this year, but the fact that you can't really capitalize on it in the same way that domestic players can?
Mm-hmm. I would just say, as I can speak for all of our international students, that, that's not something that's super important for us. Obviously, just seeing that, our teammates are so successful at it. Obviously, when the NIL started, we were kind of hoping that we're going to be included. And we know that, UConn is always working for us, and they're trying to, fight for change. and they say it's gonna come. Who knows when? But I know that they're fighting for us. They're trying to find ways for us to capitalize on that. But as for that, we came here to play basketball and get our education, and that would just be an extra. But hopefully, for obviously not me, but for the future, international student athletes that come to the United States, that hopefully they can find a way for them to capitalize in some ways.
Vicky Fulkerson from the New London Day in Connecticut. Aaliyah, Dorka has said a lot of nice stuff about you lately, like when you were MVP of the Big East tournament. I was wondering if you could say what it's like to have her as your, a front court duo, and like you said, you both get a lot of assists, and you've been dominating in the paint lately. And I was wondering what you could say about Dorka.
Yeah, I would say about Dee, she's very humble off the court, but once you get on the court, she's fierce. And I don't think that anyone should take that lightly. And she's a force inside and outside. And I think that as a team, we love that about her because, she's unpredictable in that way because, she can capitalize down low, but also on the perimeter, she can knock in that three that everyone knows that she can. So I'm grateful to be playing with her because if I'm not open, I know that she's going to hit that high-low and, knock in that shot. And I think that, with last year when she wasn't playing in the tournament towards the end, it's great that she's back and she's healthy, and I think that she's brought a lot to us and a lot to me leadership-wise because she is a vocal leader for us and for me personally, and I look up to her, and I think that she's going to do great things when she leaves here, and I'm grateful to be spending this last year with her.
Megan Gower, her hoop stats for either of you. Can you talk about the spark that Caroline gave you off the bench today? She had 12 points, 4-4 from the floor.
Yeah, I mean, she's been great. As hard of a season that she has, a lot of ups and downs, and just going through a concussion protocol, it's something that you can't really force. And for her, I think it was super hard to kind of just keep waiting. Like hopefully the time comes when she's able to play. But with headaches and a lot of symptoms, like. She just, there was a lot of ups and downs for her. So it's amazing to see her, go out there, like, getting more comfortable with contact and, knocking down shots. And obviously being on the perimeter just gives a lot of space. Her, AZ, Lou just spacing out the court. Like, there's a lot of more, pain points, not just from us post players, but for them, driving. And, she can score a lot of different ways. And it was just great to see her just, being confident, driving the ball, passing, and, she had an amazing pass to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you have that, but she's been amazing, and, we're very happy for her, because we know how hard it is. It's not just like a rolled ankle that you can play through, it's your head, it's your brain, so we're just happy to have her back, and hopefully, she keeps getting more comfortable, more confident, and she's going to be great for us, during this tournament.
Maggie Vanoni from CT Insider. For either of you guys, what was your reaction to seeing Nesh's block there at the end? And how does it help to have 10 available players during the tournament?
I think me and Dee both were like, we need to replay that and look that up on the big screen. So I think that we're all just like happy for Nesh because, she's a hard worker. And when she makes big plays like that, she doesn't really take much credit for it. But we make it known that, she did a good job.
And what I would just like to add that, she knows, if she makes some mistakes, you could see that she's the first one running back, and trying to steal a ball or do, a play like that, And I think, she's been working a lot. And, it's hard to come to UConn, as a freshman, I can imagine, just getting adjusted and, seeing her getting more comfortable, learning from her, guards, and just listening. I think, she's been tremendous, her growth been tremendous, and just excited, when she's getting the game. She's calm, and her personality is just crazy. If you see her off the court, it's just, always laughing, joking around, and the minutes on the court, she's kind of have this straight face, and so we're super happy for her, and just having obviously 10-player rotation, it's been great for her, just letting us be a little bit more aggressive, pass a lot, and that's just why we want to be on defense.
We'll take one last question for the student athletes right here in front.
actually going to kind of build off of that question. Like, you guys pressed a little bit earlier today and just were able to get kind of out there defensively. So being able to finally be at the healthiest you guys have been this season, how does that help defensively do what you guys want to do longer term?
It helps us to be more disruptive. I think Coach said it best to us before the game, like, we want to force them to make plays and not just run their plays. So I think that, going into that mentality throughout the whole tournament, and especially for Monday, I think that our defense today helped us with our transition, and it leads to that and leads to us getting buckets. So just going off that same wave, I think that will be good.
Thank you, ladies. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And for those that didn't hear, she said there's 17 minutes left for the UConn locker room. And now we will have questions for the head coach. In the purple, the gentleman right here in the gray shirt.
Coach, I don't obviously, playing a lot of big schools throughout the year. I don't know how much you knew about Vermont coming in, but did you have a plan or some of the players you were looking at to really stop early on as you did?
Yeah, it's impossible for us to have a scouting report on every single team in the country. But then once the brackets are announced, then you've got a couple days to find out as much as you can. And all the films that we watched, two things struck me about their team. One, defensively, was they have a game plan. They have their rotations down. They know how they want to play. They've played true to that for the last 17 or whatever games, that they've won in a row. And offensively, they run their stuff and they execute their stuff. And they shoot, 32 threes is a lot. But I don't think any of them were out of the offense, out of the ordinary or desperation. That's the shots that they wanted. And I just like how well organized they are and how well they run their stuff on both ends of the floor and how well coached they are. And our preparation for Vermont wasn't any different than it will be for whoever we play Monday night, or when we play Villanova, or when we play Texas. It's the same, just different people.
Lila Bromberg with the Hartford Current. Do you know, Aaliyah had as many points in that first quarter as, Vermont did as an entire team. Just how did she set the tone for you guys early, and just what are your thoughts on her, dominant performance today?
One of the things we tried to get across was whatever you want to happen on the offensive end, it can't start when you cross half court, right? It's got to begin when you are on the defensive end and how hard you're willing to work on the defensive end to create those opportunities, to create those transition opportunities, to create sprinting down the floor and Anika pushing it, the mismatches that we want. And I thought our defense did exactly that. And when we got down to the other end, I thought Aaliyah was active. Sometimes, it's hard to find people, but it wasn't easy to find Aaliyah today because she was constantly moving, she was constantly involved. And when the shot went up, there were, I don't know how many opportunities that she created for us because she was so aggressive on the offensive boards. And when Aaliyah's making that mid-range jump shot, it just changes, how our team has to be defended. So it's one of the better games. I thought that first half that she played, I thought was one of the better halves of basketball that I've seen her play since she's been at Connecticut.
Noni, CT Insider. Just a quick health update. Aubrey only played 6 minutes today, and we saw Luke kind of look like she got the wind knocked out of her or something, and didn't come right back. Didn't check back into the game after she came out.
Yeah, Aubrey's been battling that back issue, and today it was acting up a little bit. So she got some work done at halftime, but I don't like the way she looked. And there was no, I felt like we were going to win the game, and there was no sense of urgency to put her in and see if we can get her more rest for Monday. And Lou was running back on defense, and I don't know whether she tripped over somebody or just tweaked something, but when she fell down, she kind of grimaced and same thing. I didn't want to take any chances.
Since you've had 10 players the last 4 games, it seems to have opened things up for Aaliyah and Dorka down low. How have they taken advantage of, even though the kids who've come back have not played up to pre-injury form yet, how has the team taken advantage of just having the bodies out there and being able to spread the offense?
It was really hard in February, especially. They were constantly double teamed and triple teamed, and that's not to say that they weren't today a bunch of times as well, because it happened today. It just can't happen as often, and having some of the wing players that we have now, when the defense runs back, they have to run wide. And when we didn't have them, the defense just ran back into the lane. So there was no room for Aaliyah or Dorka to do anything. It was a real slog, and that's why the games were played the way they were played a lot of times. So we couldn't do as much defensively, and we couldn't do as much offensively, and now you see the difference, and the results are what they are. I'm just great it's happening. I'm just glad it's happening. It only took 5 months.
Hey, Coach. Similar to the question that I had for your players, we're in the second year of the NIL era and March Madness, and that time there's been no change to the rules, much less really any clarification to what the rules are for international players. I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that issue and the lack of change that we've seen on that front? And with that, the disparities it's sort of created within your own team, where your international players have had a really prominent role this year, but they can't necessarily take advantage or capitalize on that with NIL when they're on the biggest stage in March like a domestic player can.
Well, college basketball, the NCAA has absolutely nothing to do with that rule. That's a federal law that applies to any kid that goes to college or any kid that comes to this country on a student visa. So it's a lot bigger than anybody playing basketball. There's student visas, which are fairly easy to obtain, and there's work visas to come to America, which are very difficult to obtain. So the international players, I think like Dorka said, they come here to play basketball, and they come here to get an education. These are words right out of her mouth. So if you're a kid overseas and you're coming here for the NIL, stay home and sign a pro contract. And there's always going to be a disparity on your team. There's a disparity between Paige and AZ and every other American kid on the team. The disparity is the guys who have the most people wanting them are going to be the ones that benefit the most. You just have to figure out how to be that in that group. But, you know, we have no control over the NIL thing when it comes to international students. And will that ever even be addressed? I doubt it. So they can take advantage of it. They just can't do it while they're in the United States. So if they're in Canada or if they're in some other country while they're playing for us, they can take advantage of all those things.
One last question for Coach Oriam in the back.
Hey, Coach. Jack Main from NBC5 News in Burlington. A program like Vermont, they've been, you know, in the past 20 lost seasons, and they're just finally getting their footing underneath them. This was their first tournament appearance in 13 years, and going up against the program that you run is a tremendous accomplishment for them. What do you see in their program that will allow them to continue to be successful moving forward, or what is something that they need to do to get themselves to the next level?
Well, I think the NCAA has to be a little more creative and stop sending them here. The last time they made the tournament, they were here. So, you know, it's close by. Well, there's a lot of those schools that were close by, you know. So I think they deserve better, you know. The league that they're in is probably going to dictate how high their ceiling is, just like it is for your men's team, okay? That doesn't mean, though, that they can't become a consistent NCAA tournament team, which I think if you're playing in a one-bid league, it's hard as hell, okay? And I've been on a rampage about it. And just the fact that they have a tournament is stupid. Because Vermont next year could go undefeated, lose in the semifinals or the finals of their tournament, and they won't get a bid. So their ceiling is they need to win the tournament every year. Can they do that? Absolutely. It's a great school. They have access to a lot of kids, international or American kids. And I think their coaching staff is tremendous. I really do. I just think they have a sense of who they are, and what they want to be, and what they can do and what they can't do. And they don't try to do things they can't do. And they're very, very good at the things they can do. So when you have that going for you, you can go pretty far.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.